The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
There you go, even better. Now you can hear me. Sorry about that. Good morning. Having a little bit of difficulty this morning. Our co-host got caught up in traffic. This will teach him to remember to leave early.
No, that is absolutely untrue. I left early.
And he's doing multiple jobs, wearing multiple hats.
I was wearing one of my other hats, and I was helping someone with retirement issues, and so it proves that we're not always negative. We're doing something positive. So
that's true. Did you miss last night's City Council special City Council meeting?
Yes, I did.
And I'm sure you're quite happy about it.
Yes, I am. As I always said, I never watch it live. I DVR it because I need multiple breaks when I watch it. I have to take a break and hit myself in the head with a hammer a couple of times, after some of the things that go on. So,
well, this was an absolute inefficient use of time. Nothing was actually accomplished, and everybody had an excuse. And the worst part about it is, they know they had an excuse. Now, I received phone calls last night and this morning from family members who have people buried there, and from some other people in the city who feel that this is absolute travesty. They asked how they could have this park board and the cemetery employees charged criminally with vandalism, desecration of a cemetery, and any other charges. They said, well, why don't you throw conspiracy in there while you're at it? Because guess what? This is the way it works out. And I had a conversation with a couple of people in the city, and I found out some other bits of information that I'm going to get into in a little bit. But I think one of the biggest problems I have with this whole thing is everyone had an excuse. Everyone had an excuse. These rules have been in effect for a long time. For years and years and years. We just started to enforce them. Kathy Ann Viveris. Well, guess what, Kathy Ann? We have proof that these rules were in effect for a very, very, very long time. As a matter of fact, we have copies of contracts that go back to 1920, which now proves that the mayor is a liar, because he said these items are only 20 years old. We have contracts going back to 1920, almost 100 years ago, which actually charged $3 for the placement of a planter on a grave for perpetual care. In 1920, that was a contract entered into by the people who bought the plot and the city of Fall River. Just because the contract is 96 years old does not mean that it's invalid. It is still the contract.
And they should have been grandfathered in.
That's right.
If they did pass any ordinances, this whole thing from the get-go has been an absolute. Look, it's typical. It's the typical Fall River government now. You got Kathy Ann Viveris, the pathological liar, who can go up and oh, look at this. Oh, Jesus. Time out.
Chip, you gotta shut your ringer off.
It's one of those days. But you've got someone who goes up and lies on demand, manipulates fact, as she did about the health care when she said the holidays were caused by us paying down things, and that was exposed. But there's absolutely no credibility, that you can't have any trust. Jazel said, these planters are only 20 years old. I was told by a caller, one of our viewers, that there was a woman on it that said the planter on the plot she was discussing went back into the 1800s.
Exactly.
So, Jazel, you know, if you're going to lie, at least get close. You know, they say if you make a lie that's fairly close to fact, you might get away with it for a little while. But I mean, you guys, it's nothing but BS. Everybody's got an excuse. The fact is that what they did was because the Park Nazi decided, you know, this is what she wanted to do, and she didn't care. There's a total disregard for people, whether it comes to spending our money or showing respect to the dead. You know, this is a resting place for people's friends and relatives. And some of those, you know, I mean,
here's the thing.
Even if the urns were only 20 years old, they were still almost as old as the mayor.
Right.
So the fact is that, well, you know, that's the reality.
Exactly.
So, you know, if you don't learn from history, you know, you should learn from history.
But here's the thing. Here's the big thing. In the private sector, if you did this, if this was a private cemetery and you did this, you'd be fired.
Oh.
Okay? Now, Nancy Smith resigned as interim director of the cemetery, but she's still in charge of parks. You know what? I would have turned around if I were mayor, and I would have said, Miss Smith, I'm going to give you two options. You can either submit your resignation and leave with a little bit of dignity and respect, or I will fire you.
Forgive me if I laugh, because you're asking government to do
I know.
To do something that only private industry does, because they actually have to pay their own bills. We pay their bills.
Right.
You know they never do that. She's going to keep her job. She'll probably get a pay raise anyway. And
actually, they tried to give her one.
I know. I mean, if you look at it, it's constant. I mean, I was watching television last night again, NBC. Now we got the state of Rhode Island suing Hewlett-Packard because of their computer system, and the computer system in the DMV. That's for the taxes. Now you've got the DMV computers that they hired a company that got fired in Massachusetts, and they're paying them millions of dollars, even though Massachusetts paid them millions of dollars, and they never got the job done, and they got fired. So she hires a company that's proven to be ineffective, and their solution is to hire more people.
I think Fall River hires them.
You know, the problem is, why do these companies, when they work for private industry, actually get the job done? It's like, what do? It's yes, the government doesn't care. The government's solution to everything is to hire more people that they know, hire more companies that are connected to them politically, and spend more of our money. It's that simple. They never get the job done because, I mean, isn't this kind of like Rhode Island was kind of like didn't it one time on this show, didn't you once say that the computer guy that they hired was installing an obsolete computer system in Fall River?
Yes.
It was already obsolete. So now, in another couple of years, when they go, oh, we got to buy all new computers because our computers were obsolete, we're going to remind them that the computers are obsolete when they installed them.
That's
so,
right.
you know, it's like, if you look at the state, the federal, and the local government, they all do the same. They've got the same MO, the modus operandi, and that modus operandi is screw the voter, screw the taxpayer. We only pay attention to you when it's election time, and after that we do whatever the hell we want and spend as much money as we can out of your pocket.
Right, but you know, the worst part about this was John Perry, who is a DCM manager, was appointed as the interim director of cemeteries. But meanwhile, he's going to stay on as a DCM manager to handle snow removal in the winter, et cetera, et cetera. So are we going to pay him more money now? Of course
absolutely.
we are.
Absolutely.
Of course we are.
Absolutely.
Right. And what did the mayor do? He put 2 more people on the park board to now say, oh, we've got a full complement. Well, that costs us more money. So again, let's give our friends jobs.
And
not that they don't have enough
isn't this
already.
the guy that drove around in violation of city ordinance?
I believe he still is.
With a truck with no markings on it.
Yeah.
Who allegedly had his personal truck repaired with city money, and there are a lot of allegations about this individual. But obviously, we can see, as we did when we went over Mr. Ponciano's resume in Pawtucket, these guys are politically connected because they bounce from job to job to job to job, and along the way they get pay raise after pay raise after pay raise, and it's totally irrelevant whether they can do any of the jobs that they got along the way or not. And, welcome to government. Government of the politician, by the politician, and for the politician's friends and contributors, not by the people. And only when we do exercise our right in less than a week, get used to going to the polls, even though we're not voting for city council and school committee and mayor. Get used to that trip. Put it in your GPS, because next November we're going to have a lot to vote on.
The bigger concerns I have here is the mayor stated when this all started that the items are only 20 years old. Again, liar, pants on fire.
Lie.
Okay, and then Michael Hoare and the mayor's office, through their corporate counsel, stated that, quote, the city is not responsible to replace or repair any of these items. Okay, you knowingly and willfully vandalized and destroyed this property. Restitution's in order. Now, the Historic Commission and the Friends of Oak Grove Cemetery believe that the city should do something to replace those items that were damaged or destroyed. And, of course, the city's not going to do it because guess what? It comes out of our taxpayer dime. No. You know what I think? The park board, the employees, and, if necessary, Michael Hoare and the mayor all be named in a civil action or a criminal action, and restitution be ordered out of their pockets, not out of the pockets of the taxpayer. The taxpayer didn't authorize them to destroy this.
Well, the mayor did because...
Yeah, the mayor did because he appointed them.
The mayor, and I'm quoting, Carrere said the removal of ceramic planters was a, quote, miscommunication, unquote. He said the rules didn't specify what types of planters are allowed in the cemetery, and the workers were only following orders. The Nuremberg defense.
Of course.
I was only following orders when I was stuffing the bodies into the ovens. It wasn't my fault. I was ordered. So the fact that it was morally wrong, just as it's morally wrong, did anybody, including the mayor, and I understand he's young, and maybe nobody he knows has died yet. But does he understand that a cemetery is supposed to be a sacred place? That's the reason when people vandalize cemeteries, people get very upset. Because their relatives and their friends are laid to rest there. And they go there, with the intention of remembering these people who are very dear to them. And when you're dealing with anything in a cemetery, there should have been a full and thorough examination of what was going to be done before you begin to desecrate. And that's the word I'm going to use because that's what you did. You desecrated the graves. Because you don't care. And to use words like miscommunication is an insult to people's intelligence. This, from the get-go, when it was exposed, has been nothing but a litany of excuses. One excuse after another. And it's all a smokescreen to make us forget to remember the adamant statements by the board. I'm going to shut the cemetery down if I have to get this done. Everybody forgets the arrogance and insensitivity for the people whose loved ones are buried in that cemetery. Everybody forgets that now. We want to forget that. Let's put that in the rearview mirror. Let's forget that just as they don't give a damn about how they spend our money, they don't give a damn about anything that concerns the poor people in Fall River, the average person in Fall River. Because that's just the way it is until you boot their butts out.
Well, Chip, the thing is, I think that the biggest insult to the whole thing is these contracts, which go back to the 18 and 1900s, showing that people paid for perpetual care. And we have over $1.7 million in our perpetual care account, yet we have to bond $400,000 for equipment, which should have been replaced annually. Now, here's the kicker. Wait, here's the kicker.
Oh, I know.
Even if they just took the interest off that perpetual care account and bought equipment, which, by the way, under Mass General Law, is legal to do, to take the perpetual care money and buy equipment and materials necessary to maintain and do the
care
proper
for.
upkeep. Right, to care for the cemetery. So let's put it this way. How much does a commercial mower cost? You know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 maybe? I'm aiming high. All right? Even a little John Deere tractor costs $4,000 or $5,000, all right?
Yeah.
Just buy that 1 year. That thing's going to be good for 10, 15 years. So you buy that 1 year, you use the interest, which I'm telling you now, that $1.7 million should be generating unless the city has it in an account that doesn't generate interest, which wouldn't surprise me.
Well, it's going into a slush fund. We know that. And
Yeah.
the fact is that, look, you don't need a lot of John Deere's because a lot of that cemetery, they use smaller lawn mowers.
Exactly.
Because they're going around the stones and they've got to negotiate within the cemetery. And I actually heard a complaint from a worker that said they were using ancient push mowers, not even motorized lawn mowers. And I mean, what do those things cost? Even if there is a necessity to use a non-gas mower, I mean, I can go over to Home Depot and pick up a manual push mower for about $89. And that's if it's not on sale. And it's like, come on, and it's not in their annual budget again. And now we bonded $400,000. How many
lawnmowers they're buying?
How many lawnmowers are we buying? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? Getting them all party vans like the mayor got? I don't know. But again, waste of taxpayers' money. You get these bonds, and I don't see a definitive breakdown of every single dollar they're spending. You know why? Because remember the time they were going to buy the office furniture and the price tag was so high, and somebody finally asked, what the hell kind of furniture are you buying? And I'll never forget it when they finally admitted, oh, there's a cushion there. A cushion? That's a euphemism for money that we're hiding from you, and we're going to spend it on whenever we want. We're going to say it's for furniture, but we're going to use it in other places that we want, and that's your tax money. And we don't care if we overestimate. Guess what? You can't do that in your budget. You can't say that, hey, I'm going to buy furniture that's going to cost me $1,500, and I'm going to put $6,000 in my budget for that furniture so I can hide it from my wife. Because guess what? That other $3,500 has got to be somewhere in your budget because you got to pay the rest of your bills. But they never do because they don't pay bills, and that's why they're right when they say, Mr. Ferry, you don't understand. This isn't like your house. That's right, because you're accountable. And there are consequences if you screw up your budget in your house, just like there are in my house. But guess what? They're never accountable. They can spend as much money as they want, and when they run out of money, they don't. It's not like us. You don't get a demand to pay and they repossess your television or repossess your car. No. What they say is, more taxes.
That's right.
More fees. We're broke. Let's bond again.
It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out because I'm telling you, it looks like this is another shot right in the Jazel Correa administration.
Yeah.
And, this is the problem. King Phillip Mill bid deadline has been pushed back.
You mean the mill that the South End people want knocked down?
Yeah,
Okay.
Because of historical concerns now.
Oh.
I'm really tired of talking about that because understand something, people of the South End. Let's make this very clear to you. The administration could care less what you want. You mean nothing to the administration until after January 1st, at which point the administration, the city council, and anyone running for the office of mayor or city council are going to come and say, oh, we're going to knock that building down, we're going to knock that building down. And then come next January, the January of 2018, you know what's going to happen? Nothing. Because guess what? Look on Bedford Street. Look at the old BCC building. What happened? Nothing.
Bless
Sorry
you.
about that.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. They make the promises during the election cycle, and we heard them all from this administration. And the only thing that he really accomplished was removing the $10 trash fee. Because guess what? So far, zero-based budgeting isn't working. $1 million shortfall on the pay-as-you-throw program, spending more money on trying to educate you, the Fall River citizen, on how to recycle, because obviously the administration thinks you're either too feeble or too stupid to know what you need to do. And it's the same stuff being mailed again that they mailed twice already. So if nobody looked at it the first 2 times, who's going to look at it now? Because you know what I did with it when I got it? I took it and I threw it out.
I have a quick question for you, CJ.
Sure.
I'm reading this article in the Herald News. So when I'm not making this stuff up, it says, now, it says, longest source of safety concern for the abutting South End neighborhood, Viveris said the residents have made it known there is no interest in redeveloping the entire mill complex. And in fact, they expressed to the administration they wanted the entire complex taken down. Okay.
Right.
Okay, they want the entire... And then her next statement, this is a quote. Quote, so we've come to a good compromise, unquote, said Viveris. It's not a compromise. If they said they want the entire thing coming down,
it comes down.
It comes down. They didn't say they wanted a compromise. They said they didn't say take it half down. They said they don't want it at all. They want the entire thing taken down. So according to the city, if they get what they want, it's not that they're imposing their will on the taxpayers of the South End. It's a compromise. So I just want everybody, when they read this article, to remember, this is what they're best at. Lying. It's an absolute fabrication.
And the one thing I want all of the viewers to remember is you may be on this administration's bandwagon that this administration can't do anything wrong. They can't, because they lie all the time. But you don't seem to understand it. If you work for an individual, and all you gotta do is look at the Trump campaign to see this, and you say something, it's not you that's saying it. It's the individual you work for. Okay? So when Kathy Ann Viveris does this, it's not Kathy Ann Viveris that's doing this. It's Jazel Correa. Understand, the lies come from the top. The lies come from the top. And now, real quickly, because we only have a few minutes left here. I mean, it's amazing how time flies. Many people called saying, hey, can I go in and change my early vote now? Because Donald Trump, and I didn't want to say the name.
Now ahead in the polls.
Donald Trump said that, and this is in Wisconsin, you can do this in Wisconsin, that you should go in and for your early voters and go change your vote. And in Wisconsin, they can do that. In Massachusetts, you cannot. In Massachusetts, once you vote in the early voting, put it in that envelope and seal it, it gets locked away. You cannot change your vote. It's locked in place. So if you voted for Hillary and you're upset and you want to vote for Trump, too bad, you already voted. If you voted for Trump and you're upset and you want to vote for Hillary, too late, too bad, you're out of luck. And if you voted for Mickey Mouse like I did, hey, accept your vote. Because you know what? An animated character can't do any worse.
And you know what the moral of that story is? What we always say on this show. Don't vote early. Wait till the last minute and educate yourself as much as you can before you cast your ballot.
That's right.
Because now things are breaking that should have broke previously.
Right.
And we see, but we already knew pretty well. Yep. But I mean, look, we're seeing things that, look, as I said, this obviously is I mean, this election is just beyond human comprehension.
Yeah, it is.
At this point in time in the 21st century and in the history of this nation, we have the two most unpopular candidates in the history of the United States. I mean, I think that had we had an election between Joe Stalin and Adolf Hitler, there wouldn't have been as much of a disapproval rating as we have for these two candidates.
Right.
It's a sad commentary on what the political system in this country has evolved to, because this is it. Trump is an example of voter frustration, which I understand that.
Yes.
And Hillary is a classic example of what political parties have turned into. They are socialist organizations that only care about their own party.
Well,
they are communists. They're not liberals, they're communists.
You know what they say. You know what the Democratic Party says?
Yeah.
Vote early and vote often.
That's right. But they are communists because at the beginning of the Democratic primary, they said, we have picked a candidate.
That's right.
We don't care what you say. We're smarter than you, and we know what's best for this country and for the people. So why bother belonging? This is the reason I've been an independent my entire life.
Yep.
Because, here is a classic example of the polar opposites. You have one candidate who's unpopular, but he got a nomination because people are fed up with government. And then you got the Democratic side with a candidate who's vilified by virtually everybody except the people who run the party machine she's been part of for 30 plus years wanted her, and they didn't give a damn who ran against her.
Right.
And she even got the questions before the CNN debate by a CNN commentator.
That's right, and that shows you how corrupt she is.
Yeah, how corrupt those people who were commenting about what happened in the debate. That individual, Donna Brazil, is a commentator after every single debate, and she's always pro-democratic because obviously she's a Democratic operative. But she also has absolutely no credibility because she's feeding the questions to her people. She should not be a commentator. She should be fired.
Well, the biggest concern I have over that is we've done several debates ourselves, Chet. And we've been asked for the questions.
That's right. Nobody gets the questions.
Nobody gets the questions. As a matter of fact, we don't even do the final review until 24 hours before. They come in and they stay locked away. Nobody gets them. You and I are the only ones that have access to them. And we're asked. So, that's ridiculous. Now, here's a couple of breaking stories in the last minute of the show here. Number one, the City of Fall River School Department is found guilty of civil rights violations. We will have a copy of the order by Friday. But a phone call was made to the complainant, and the Fall River School Department, once again, guilty of a civil rights violation. Not good. Not good. Oh, and I also received a copy of an internal communique from City Corporate Counsel to city employees and board members, restricting them from their ability to exercise their right to sue various departments and department heads. You work for the city, therefore you can't sue the city. It must go to my office.
No, wrong.
Yeah.
And I got to add a quickie here. We had this little report, anti-poverty strategies. Bristol County, our county, leads the state in people. More than 1/5 of the children live in poverty.
Don't talk facts.
26% of the children live in poverty. Guess what? And guess who's number one in the number one county? Fall River, the Riv. We're the poorest, most poverty-stricken city in the most poverty-stricken county in the state of Massachusetts. Again, we lead the parade in everything that's bad, in all the negative categories. And so we justify the Wall Street Journal and USA Today's confidence in making us in the top.
Well, I guess it's great to be number one and being the worst.
That's right. Hide your planters from the park department and stay angry.
Yeah. And we'll see you on Friday. Have a great day.